Hey, my name is Dean Wilson. I'm your Atchafalaya BasinKeeper. I came here in 1984 to Louisiana. On my way to the Amazon rainforest. Wanted to train to go to the Amazon. I stayed in the swamp for 4 months with my bow, a few arrows, a spear, and a few hooks. And I ate whatever I could catch in the swamp for 4 months, and I fell in love with the basin. I decided to stay in the Atchafalaya Basin, made my living off the land. For over 20 years, I was a commercial fisherman. I made my living hunting and fishing. In the year 2000, they started cutting down all the cypress trees in the Atchafalaya Basin and coastal Louisiana to make cypress mulch. And that's when I decided to get involved and try to protect these amazing ecosystems. And I founded Atchafalaya BasinKeeper in the year 2004, and I've been working ever since as the Atchafalaya BasinKeeper. The Atchafalaya Basin contains the largest wetland forest in North America. The main 3 ecosystems is Bottomland hardwood forest, cypress tupelo swamps, and marsh. The Atchafalaya Basin have the most productive wetlands in the entire world. The reason they're so productive is because the production of wild crawfish. Crawfish is the best food for almost everything in the basin. So during hot water, the Atchafalaya Basin become a crawfish buffet. Everything goes after crawfish, like otters, minks, raccoons, the birds, the fish, alligators. We got big frogs called bullfrogs. They feed on crawfish. They can grow over 2 pounds. We have spiders called fishing spiders. They eat crawfish. Owls catch crawfish. So they feed more animals per acre than any other wetland in the world. And that's very important because as sea level rises, the Atchafalaya Basin will have the last big wetlands where those animals can feed, especially migratory birds. Nearly the entire eastern population of migrants, birds that come, tropical migrants, birds that come from the tropics to North America, nearly the entire eastern population of those birds come through coastal Louisiana and the Atchafalaya Basin. So the delta of the Mississippi Delta is one of the largest in the world, and most of the delta will be gone at one point because of sea level rise. So that will be the last big areas where the birds can feed. So you can imagine the importance of the planetary scale. The Atchafalaya Basin contains the most important wetlands for migratory birds in the whole Western Hemisphere. Also, the Atchafalaya Basin is very important for flood protection. The Atchafalaya River, which is Atchafalaya Basin is the basin of the Atchafalaya River, comes from the Mississippi River and is designed to protect millions of people from flooding. As the Mississippi River rises, before they overtop the levees, from Baton Rouge to New Orleans, then what they do is they open the Morganza spillway. They spill the water from the river into the Atchafalaya Basin, protecting all these people from flooding. But also, we have 150 industrial plants between New Orleans and Baton Rouge that can be flooded, and the basin protects all that. Also, we have the Mississippi River between Baton Rouge and New Orleans is one lone port. It's the largest in the country, protects that. So the economic importance of the Atchafalaya Basin cannot be underestimated. As a matter of fact, if the basin could not handle a major flood and all those plants flood, and you have the port of Baton Rouge and New Orleans go underwater for several months, that can create an economic impact to the nation that will be very hard to recover from. So as you can see, the Atchafalaya Basin is very important for many different reasons. The Atchafalaya Basin is severely threatened. One of them is cypress logging. When you cut the cypress trees down, they won't come back. They don't regenerate, so you lose them forever. The basin is contains some of the most beautiful ecosystems in the planet. It's amazing, beautiful forest, and they're very important. The cypress trees are very important also for the ecosystem. So in the year 2000, when they started cutting down all the cypress trees in coastal Louisiana, that's when I decided to start working, to try to protect those forests. I just could not see myself walking this planet in a time of history where they will destroy that forever and do nothing. So that's what drove me in to get involved. So I learned about the Waterkeeper Alliance in the year 2003, and I saw it as a good platform to be able to protect the Atchafalaya Basin. So in the year 2004, I submitted a proposal to start the Atchafalaya BasinKeeper program, and that's where everything, that that's when the Atchafalaya BasinKeeper was born. My main work at the very beginning was to stop the sappers logging. We stopped most of the sappers logging in coastal Louisiana in the year 2008. The last logging operation that was in the Atchafalaya Basin was stopped in the year 2012. All the threats to the Atchafalaya Basin is multiple. All companies dumping, produced water, the dirty water from the well is heavily polluted. It's a brine full of salt. You got benzene, heavy metals. They were doing that in different places in the basin. We stopped all that. One of the problems is that there is no enforcement of the environmental laws. The Corps of Engineers is the main enforcer of these environmental laws, and they just don't enforce. So no enforcement of the permits, when they build pipelines and canals and all access canals and all that. So enforcement has become the cornerstone of our work. Without enforcement, our environmental laws not only are useless, they also make things worse, because companies that try to do it the right way, it will be more expensive, and they cannot compete on bids to do work in the basin with companies that will cut corners and do it cheap. So you can imagine the importance of enforcement, for protecting not only the Atchafalaya Basin, but almost any ecosystem in North America. We fought many different things, not only sappers logging, they produce waters. At one point, they wanted to bring all the frack waste from Pennsylvania, Ohio, and all that into the Atchafalaya Basin to dispose that in this injection well in the basin. We stopped that. They were building illegal dams and illegal roads, and all kind of different developments, illegal developments, and we pretty much been stopping most of it, but they're keeping us real busy. Now the main threat, if I had to pick up one threat to the Atchafalaya Basin, is sediment. When you listen or you hear about the coastal Louisiana, everybody talks about the land loss in the coast. They're working on coastal restoration projects to protect the coast and protect the coastal wetlands. Now, in the Atchafalaya Basin, those wetlands are far away from the coast, nothing to do with the coast. And if you build land in those wetlands, you don't have wetlands any longer. You own a wetland and you bring trucks with dirt and you fill the wetland to put a house, then you don't have a wetland anymore, So the way they're doing it is by doing river diversions, or using canals. All companies will dig a canal, and the canal become a conduit for sediments, sand and silt. All the water from the Atchafalaya River comes from the Mississippi River, so it's full of sand and silt. So, many of the pipeline canals have created deltas and destroy a lot of the wetlands. But also, the government is doing projects, river diversion projects. They call it water quality projects, to divert that polluted river water straight into the swamp, and they can build land very quick. So we're fighting those projects tooth and nail. So imagine the Atchafalaya Basin being a huge bathtub holding all those waters. Now, what happens if you fill your bathtub in your house with dirt? So you can put 500 gallons of water in your bathtub and you fill it up with sand halfway. You cannot put 500 gallons anymore. You only can put 250. So every year, we're losing flood capacity in the Atchafalaya Basin, and the ability of the basin to protect from flood diminishes year after year after year. And that is going to be the damaging effect is going to be incremented by the fact that sea level is rising. So the incline to the Gulf is becoming less and less, will become less and less over the years. So by doing that, by filling those wetlands with sand and silt, they put in jeopardy the safety of all those chemical plants, the port of Baton Rouge and New Orleans, and all the people that depend on the Atchafalaya Basin to safely live in this part of the country. Without a deep Atchafalaya Basin, we cannot safely live here all the time. Eventually, the flood will get us. So Atchafalaya BasinKeeper, we do a huge amount of work with very few people. We only have 2 full-time employees and a part-time attorney. So we depend very heavily on volunteers to be able to do our work. So today we're here with Preston. Preston is a member of Atchafalaya BasinKeepers and a volunteer. They are our angels, and he's a drone pilot. So we're gonna be going into the basin to document some things by drone from the air. One of the ways, one of the tools that they use to justify projects that will fill wetlands is by manipulating science. So drone footage will be very important to show the reality on the ground of what's going on in the Atchafalaya Basin. And some of the effects that past river diversions have done, the effects that have into the basin, but also we're going to show what future projects will do to the Atchafalaya Basin. So right now we are in my house. I live on the historical Atchafalaya Basin, not too far from the levee. And I'm a house, and we are about to pack our equipment and get in the boat and do our work. I've been living in Louisiana since 1984, in the same house since 1987. So I want you to imagine a world without Atchafalaya BasinKeepers and what will happen. If those wetlands are destroyed the way they're trying to destroy them today, what will happen? What will happen to the planet? Imagine a world in the future, you kids, all these birds, massive migrations that come through the Mississippi Delta. I mean, they don't have no more ecosystem. Where those birds are going to go? Massive extinction, the misery of having a huge flood because the Atchafalaya Basin couldn't handle the flood because it's been filled with sand and silt. All the suffering, kids, babies, mothers, cars on the water, houses on the water. So imagine all that, what will be without Atchafalaya BasinKeepers. So our work is important, your work is important. And we need to do this together, Not only we need funding, obviously we need funding, everything costs money. And BasinKeepers, I want to say for the record, we don't make money out of lawsuits. People when they think about lawsuits, somebody's, suing other people is for money. It costs money for us to go to court. We don't want to go to court. But all that costs money, but also, we're very dependent on volunteers. You may be able to volunteer like Preston today is going to be our drone pilot, and that's critical for us. We do mail-outs, and we get like 8 to 10 people together and help us do the mail-out. We have over 1,600 members. That's a lot of letters to send, So it's a lot of ways that you can, be engaged in protecting those wetlands through Atchafalaya BasinKeepers. Atchafalaya BasinKeepers is two things. We have employees, full-time employees, but also it's a platform for anybody that wants to make a difference. And they have, gifts or challenge or knowledge. They can make a difference. A platform for these people to get engaged and make that difference.